Coming up on a SkinDepth Convo.
So we do sunscreen testing in our lab with a machine. So that's usually step one, getting lab results for SPF. And I see how much is mandated by the FDA to be used. Statistics have shown that people typically tend to use about half of what we use for testing.
Yes.
And then when you launch an SPF product, you must have it tested on consumers as well. So you have to get it tested on human skin, and they use the same amount, what is required by the FDA. It's a lot.
This is a show focused on educating and inspiring all those in the skincare and beauty industry. But it is also a show for those looking to improve themselves from the inside out. In each episode, we explore the latest trends, breakthrough technologies, and get expert insights within the dynamic world of skincare and beauty. If you're looking to further your beauty education and nurture your passion, you're in the right place. Renowned experts and hosts Metaxia and Francine aim to educate and inspire through their own experiences and are dedicated to enlightening and empowering enthusiasts and professionals in the realm of skincare and beauty. Join the conversation and the fun with a SkinDepth Convo. Welcome to a SkinDepth Convo. I'm Anna Kagarakis. Today is part 2 of our episode on understanding cosmetic chemistry with Dr. Gabriella Baki. Today we focus on the truth about sunscreen and melanin and how science is shaping the future of skin protection. In a bit, we'll bring back Dr. Baki, Associate Professor at the University of Toledo's College of Pharmacy and Pharmaceutical Sciences, and the Program Director of Cosmetic Science and Formulation Design major. She teaches undergraduate and online master's students and leads research focused on topical ingredient delivery, sun protection, and the sensory side of skincare products. On top of all that, she is a nationally recognized speaker and the author of the wonderful textbook, Introduction to Cosmetic Formulation and Technology. But before we bring in Dr. Baki, let's welcome in our expert hosts, part of the founders of Lyra Clinical, Metaxia and Francine Kagarakis. Now, ladies, I know that we have discussed sunscreens a lot in the past. We've talked about the importance of sunscreen, but why was it important for you to bring in a chemist to talk about this topic?
Well, this is the most important product, SPF's protection, and the fact that we're able to talk to the chemist or a chemist who's able to put together and explain how SPFs are put together gives us a different understanding than we did before. We all understand we have to apply it. It protects us from the sun. SPF 30 is very important. We know all of that, but understanding how it's put together and all the benefits and the fact that there's drug facts involved when you're using an SPF changes this product altogether. To have a chemist on to discuss this is very interesting for everybody.
And I really want to focus on ALL Fitzpatrick type, how important it is. And there's a rise in skin cancer. And, we need to talk about it. And we need to kind of reinforce the reason why we need to put the SPFs on ALL Fitzpatrick type. It's important. So it's a great opportunity to share this knowledge with our audience. And not all labs have this ability to do the drug facts and support them with the testing. So it's an important fact, not only on the label, but actually going to the right labs to get it done properly.
All Fitzpatrick types need SPF.
And we're going to find out why.
We're going to find out why, and we're going to talk to Dr. Baki right after this word from Lyra Clinical.
This podcast is brought to you by Lyra Clinical and the award-winning Mystique Illuminating Beauty Oil. Mystique Beauty Oil's amazing skin-friendly hydration delivers potent antioxidants and anti-inflammatories with Lyra Clinical's exclusive Mass Tech brightening technology. This luxury oil blend is infused with vitamin C for a clean, dry finish on the skin. Use by itself or add to your favorite hydrator. Beauty oil delivers your glow and go look. Contact your local Lyra retailer for additional information at lyraclinical.com.
And then I also wanted to bring in sunscreens because we understand, I'm sure consumers have been educating themselves so much, I think during COVID especially, that there are the so-called physical or mineral sunscreens, and then there are the chemical or organic sunscreens. And when it comes to organic sunscreens, that's really not what it means for other product types. When it comes to sunscreens, organic really means and refers to the chemistry. So these are organic chemicals, and so they have carbon atoms with hydrogen and oxygen in a lot of the molecules. So it really goes back to organic chemistry and has nothing to do with how the ingredients or products are certified or made or what else is in them. So I think it's just, as an average consumer, it's really a nightmare trying to read labels and understand what is what or what can do what.
They're thinking that there's something very organic about it, but you're right. It's a whole different definition of what they're assuming that they do know about. And that's important because SPFs are so important. People do need to remember that's the most important skincare product to ever use. And in the fact that we have drug facts on SPF, I would love for you to explain the importance of having the drug facts on a label.
I totally agree with you on sunscreen use. I think that's one of the most important products to use. If you only want to use one product a day, that should be your sunscreen from as early as you can. Prevention is so much easier than taking care of already developed symptoms and signs, even just for aging, but skin unfortunately can develop other issues as well due to sun exposure. So when it comes to drug facts, so sunscreens in the United States are regulated as drugs. And just like any other OTC products, from your headache medication to maybe cough drops or anything else, they must carry a drug facts label. This is a labeling requirement put forth by the FDA. And so it just makes it easier for a consumer to find the information on the label, because the label is structured in a very standardized way. It always has ingredients in the same, or not ingredients, but it has information in the same order. And it has active ingredients always listed on the top with what their functions are. And it has everything else, directions for safe use, all of those on the label. So it makes it very easy for a consumer to know where to find information, maybe compare product to product, and also to contact the company if they have any questions. So the reason why sunscreens have a drop facts box is really to allow consumers to safely use the product. And it's a requirement because they are considered drugs.
And we also have to pay an extra testing fee when we are manufacturing. So there is a lot of testing involved, and there's a lot more invested in this SPF product, but they are very, very important for everybody to remember that there is a use for them, and you should start very, very young.
Oh, yeah. I got to ask you, though, I have seen things like on TikTok and on Instagram and everything where people are creating their own sunscreens at home. They're like, oh, this is how I make my own. What comes to your mind, you know, as somebody who specializes in this, in the chemistry behind it? What do you think when you see stuff like that?
When I see that, I just, no, don't do that. Like if the first product probably you can create at home would be a sunscreen. So I think it's really hard for consumers to understand what great ingredients we use, how to get those. Zinc oxide is used in, for example, diaper rash products because it's also an antiseptic and helps with diaper rash, but it looks very white on the skin. In that size, it's a different particle size. We also use zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. These are the two physical sunscreens. And I think it kind of goes back and forth. I feel like as the years go by, which one is favored more? Sometimes it's physical sunscreens, sometimes it's the chemical sunscreens. But so in terms of physical sunscreens, they're also used in makeup products as opacifiers, not only in foundations, but also in lipsticks and nail polish products, to either give more opacity, so less see-through products at the end. For foundations, more coverage. Your lipstick color pops more on the lips if these have these ingredients. They're not the same size. Again, when it comes to sunscreens, we do use zinc oxide and titanium dioxide, but in very small particle sizes. So when you put it on your skin, it doesn't look white. It doesn't give you that white cast. And when it comes to sunscreens, making physical sunscreens is really challenging. It's not only an emulsion, but it's also a suspension. Suspension is something that has solid particles in it that doesn't dissolve. Think of, it's a silly example, but think of sand in water. So that would be an example of a suspension. Now, obviously, it sits down very quickly. So we as scientists have to figure out how do we keep sand floating? And so essentially, zinc oxide and titanium dioxide are not as big as sand would be. And we're not dealing with water. It's an emulsion, but it's the same concepts. We are constantly dealing with how do we prevent that from happening? That's something that you just, I know it from experience because we have to get the ingredients for our teaching lab. our undergraduate degree is in person, and our students have a very intensive hands-on learning experience in the lab every semester from their freshman year up to their senior year. They have at least one lab, and I teach them in 2 labs throughout their academic career. It is not easy to get those ingredients. A lot of times when you purchase ingredients, the minimum purchase quantity is so high, sometimes 5 to 10 pounds, that a consumer is not going to be able to buy that they don't need that much. And so just buying it off of Amazon, you don't buy the same grade. It doesn't, not the same quality. So you're not even having the right ingredients, most likely. We use very specialized mixers in our labs to be able to recreate products in a very standardized way with the same quality. These are very expensive instruments, so I don't think DIYers typically do not invest. So your products quality is changing all the time, but mixing is so important when it comes to sunscreens. And so you're just not going to get a consistent product out of it. It's not safe, I think, from that perspective, that consumers will think that they created a product that gives them the protection, but truly they don't. And so they will just use it and go out to the sun when they should have protection on the skin. So I think it's not that it's unsafe what they make at home. Those ingredients that you buy are likely safe. It's just not the same grade, but it's more so the end product is not giving you the protection, but you believe that it does. So I think from that perspective, it's just so misleading. It's fine making some products at home, but sunscreen, no.
Like, don't do it.
What is your, there's a controversy between chemical sunscreens and physical sunscreens. There's just one time it's really important to go physical and another time chemical. It's just back and forth. What is your thought? One, in your opinion, better than the other, or they're just wearing them is the most important part of application?
I'm glad you brought that up. So essentially, they both protect the same way. So when it comes to sunscreens, physical UV filters, I usually describe the ingredients that give you that protection UV filters. The end product is the sunscreen, but it has many other ingredients in it. So the physical UV filters and the chemical UV filters both mostly absorb sunlight. About 90% they work the same. And then the physical UV filters are also able to reflect some of that light. That's why they would, if they are not the right particle size, you would have white cast because they reflect back into the visible range. So for the most part, they work the same. I think it really comes down to what they feel like on the skin. Organic or chemical sunscreens, the UV filters themselves, the ones that we tend to use, and it's really about 6 to 8 ingredients, they feel oily on the skin. So the end product will also feel somewhat greasier on the skin. Also, if you would like more water resistance, longer wear, a lot of times that is created through more greasier ingredients and film formers. Physical sunscreens may give you more of a mattifying feeling, but they also may give you some cast. I have seen more tinted sunscreens come on the market. So when it comes to physical sunscreens, if we tint them with the ingredients we would tint foundations with, then they kind of mask that white cast and give you more of a skin-like color. So I think that's a great option for consumers. And fortunately, I have seen it from lighter to darker skin color as well. And it's not a full foundation. So I wouldn't want consumers to believe that I don't want a foundation. I'm not comfortable using that. That's fine. They just give you a little bit of color. You rub it in and it makes your skin look very natural, your own skin color. But I think they just get rid of that white cast that you would have otherwise. I think it's more so what consumers feel like in terms of safety. We've had so many concerns about physical sunscreens absorbing into the skin. They do, but they don't absorb down into the living skin layers. So they really are very safe for consumers. And actually babies are recommended to use physical sunscreens from about 6 months up because they tend to be less absorbent into the skin. We understand that chemical sunscreens can and do absorb into your bloodstream, but then we have a liver and kidneys that can filter these ingredients out and our body gets rid of these. So if something absorbs into your body, it doesn't mean that it's toxic or poisonous. We have lots of things absorbed from foods and beverages as well. And we sort of just get rid of those. So I think consumers make that connection that if something absorbs, it's toxic when it comes to skincare. But same thing happens when you eat, consume something. So we understand that they absorb because baby skin is still developing. It's so sensitive. That's why they don't recommend using chemical sunscreens at the very early ages or early months, I should say. Later on, it almost doesn't matter. So I think for adults, it really comes down to skin feel, maybe the scent, maybe the brand that you're trusting, maybe they have extra claims on it. What I would pay attention to, honestly, and would recommend others to, is have a reasonable high SPF. And I think that's around 30 is reasonably high. And then look for broad spectrum protection.
You've been saying exactly what we believe in. We are
Yes.
totally into mineral
Right.
sunscreen, so we prefer that. So we sort of agree with you there. And we do tint it also because higher Fitzpatrick skin types, there is a gray tinge once in a while because of the high amount of zinc. So tint is the way we go. And so I 100% agree with you on that.
100%, yeah.
So I think 30 is a good number.
Yes.
And always look for broad spectrum protection. I think that's another misconception, that if you don't see the sun out, you don't need to use sunscreen. And that's not true. We have two types of UV lights that can reach the surface of Earth, and that's UVB and UVA. And I've seen like these abbreviations to remember. A is for aging, B is for burning,
Yes.
and unfortunately both can cause cancer. And so unfortunately, which is sometimes not understood, UVA is pretty constant throughout the day and throughout the year. So, and it unfortunately comes through windows. So it's something that if you're driving, you are not protected from UVA lights. If you go out, they come through the clouds, even if you don't see the sun. And so I think people don't understand, if you don't necessarily understand or realize that if you go up higher hiking, even if it's a cloudy day, you are way higher, you are having a higher dose of exposure. If you see the sun, it reflects back from the snow. So it's just, there is so much, I think, physics and other sciences going around, sunscreen science, that consumers just overlook, don't understand, don't care, that it's so important to look for broad spectrum products that protect you from both UVA and UVB.
Well, we also have now blue light too, right? So that's something else we have to think about.
You're very right. So blue light has always been there. I think we just now realized that probably we should protect against that as well, because it's so close to the UVA on the light spectrum. And I've looked at some research, and I think a lot of companies tend to focus on devices like your cell phone or TV or computers. They do emit UV light, but most of the UV light exposure or most of the blue light will come from your sun. So most of the exposure you get throughout the day. I've seen studies where they try to mimic what if somebody keeps the phone close to their face for about 8 hours a day, full light on your phone, you still have a lot more coming from the sun. So I think it's just something to understand. There is some research going on currently about zinc oxide and titanium dioxide. Their protection most likely goes out to the blue light region as well. So you get that extra protection as well. And I've also seen some research done on tinted sunscreens. And we have done some research as well that if you use tinted sunscreens, you mean you are using iron oxides in those products. And iron oxides can also give you protection in the blue light region. Wow. So you not only get a better color for your skin or less of that white cast, especially when it comes to darker skin tones, that it's a lot of times not even white, it's a gray cast. Iron oxides help you with that, but they also can help with the blue light exposure. So I think it's just great to use tinted products.
I love it. I'm using them all the time. I love them.
I just love the way you put that together right now, because SPFs are so very, very important. And we, as we said, we do favor the zinc and the titanium. And we actually have a BB, a series of them. We have 8 of them, and they do have the iron oxide in them. So you just did a great commercial for our BBs. So that was fantastic.
Well, also, what about also the different skin tones? Like, what's some of the misconception about wearing sunscreen? And there's new technology now that's kind of helping, as they said with Larry here, they have all these different wide range levels for different Fitzpatricks. But what's kind of the misconception when it comes to sunscreen and darker Fitzpatricks?
I think the biggest misconception is, especially for the darkest ones, so the 5 and 6, is that they don't need protection because they have more melanin in the skin. And that is true, that they have more melanin in the skin, hence the darker skin color. But even that larger amount of melanin is not enough to give you adequate sun protection. So my skin probably has about 1 to 2 SPF from the melanin that's in my skin. A darker skin color may have something around 10, but that's not enough. We just talked about that. Probably 30 is a good number to go after. So I think what's a big misconception is if you have darker skin, you don't need to use sunscreen because you don't burn. What's the point? Well, the point is that you still get wrinkles. Hyperpigmentation, especially post-inflammatory hyperpigmentation, is very common in darker skin color. And so the sun just triggers that even more. And skin cancer is such a leading type of cancer that is mostly driven by and triggered by the sun. And while it is easier to detect earlier on in earlier stages on light skin color because of the contrast, it usually starts something looking like as a birthmark. So on my skin, it would be really easy to pinpoint something and keep track of what it looks like over time, over the years. Is it growing? Is it becoming a weird color? Is it still homogeneous weird color? It's really hard to detect and see where it is on darker skin colors. So unfortunately, a lot of times when it gets detected on darker skin consumers, so Fitzpatrick 5 and 6, it's already in more advanced stages because, I mean, you just don't get that contrast. So I think that's one of the largest misconceptions, that you do need to use sunscreen no matter your skin color because you do get the sun exposure. So good for you if you don't burn, but there are so many other things that the sun does to our skin. A lot of issues we deal with when it comes to skin concerns are coming from the sun. So
Free radical damage.
Yeah.
A lot of free radical damage. You know, it's funny because you brought up driving in a car. Metaxia is known for putting sunscreen. You have to explain that. See, what do you do in the car when you're driving?
I pull my shirt, my sweaters down, or the sleeves down to cover my arms. And finally, I have sunscreen in my car always and apply it as I drive, because it's definitely the driving, shows the aging on your hands. And I didn't understand that for years. So it's just nice to have it in your car. You apply it, so it's there. But I would pull my sleeves down all the time, and she would look at it. Francine would tease me all the time about that.
No, I'm looking like the white gloves. I go, pretty soon we're going to look at your white gloves. She goes, why not? If it's going to make sure that it protects my skin, I will go ahead and do it. But it's funny because you have to reapply. So if you are going to wear it on your hands, and then you wash your hands during the day, you have to remind yourself to reapply when you get in the car. Especially, on the side of your face. And you're going to see a lot of people on the left side of their face have more hyperpigmentation than on the right side of their face due to driving, on their hands too at the same time. So reapplication is also important when you're washing your hands, and other times when you're hiking.
Now, when we are looking at someone's face, you'll notice if they drive a lot, there's more photo damage on the side that they're exposed to the sun. Even driving half an hour a day, because it's accumulative. All this damage takes its course of cumulative. And so you will see it right away, and you'll say, oh, you drive to work, or you commute, or you're in the car, and they agree to that. So being aware of the exposure to the sun and the rays is really important. And that's the biggest lesson they should learn from this podcast today, is that if you're going to pick one product, and we say that an SPF product is the most important, product you should apply as a daily essential application. So we definitely agree with you.
Reapplication is so important.
Yeah.
And part of how sunscreens work is some of the sunscreens, and it sounds silly, but are photosensitive. So when the photons, the molecules that come from the sun, hit the sunscreen on your skin, the sunscreen starts breaking down as it is protecting your skin. So over time, you run out of protection, and you need to keep reapplying to have that constant protection, especially if you're out on the sun all day. And I think most people may remember that, but it's like you said, you wash it off, you may sweat it off. If you get exposed to the sun, it starts working, and that means you do need to reapply. And usually I always tell my students that, a lot of consumers pay attention to their face and neck and upper chest area, not necessarily to the back of the hand. So when you want to look at somebody's hands, like, you can really understand what's going on, or their age or hyperpigmentation or all of those. So I usually tend to tell students, just rub it into the back of the hand. If you have any sunscreen left from your face, just rub it into the back of your hand.
And is there any
Exactly.
difference? A lot of times people feel that they get a higher SPF makes a big difference. What we talk about is 30 is the key number that you have to at least have. That is the number one. But could you tell us a little difference between 30 and 50?
Great question also. There is a difference between the two. And so there are two ways to look at this. If you look at how much light is being filtered out, that's not a huge difference. I don't have the percentages in front of me, but I believe 30 is around 93% of the light that's hitting your skin is being filtered out. And an SPF 50 would be, I believe, about 95%. So it's about 2% difference, right? What's the big deal about it? But it's not not really what's filtered out. What we are concerned about, what's not filtered out, that's hitting your skin, that is causing the skin damage. And so in terms of an SPF 30, that would be about 7%. An SPF 50, that would be a 5, maybe a 4 or 5%. I just don't have the percentages in front of me. Like that could be a double protection. I know between an SPF 15 and 30, the protection is about double. And in terms of like how much light actually gets to your skin, if you look at, again, how much is being filtered out, it's about a 3-4% difference. So I think consumers tend to look at this from the wrong side. It's really what's important is how much exposure you eventually get after using the product. So an SPF 50 is giving you higher protection than an SPF 30. That's why the higher the number, the better. But also understand that likely we had to use a little bit higher UV filter level in the higher SPF products. And so that might be a little bit greasier on the skin, may give you a little bit more white cast on the skin. But with today's technologies, there are so many great ingredients that we call boosters, and we've done some research with those as well. So boosters are ingredients that are not UV filters themselves, but can really enhance the protection given by the UV filters. And so there are new ingredients being created as we speak by suppliers. So I think sunscreen technology has changed so much in terms of what products we can create, the skin feel, and we understand that consumers are scared of UV filters. So I think the industry has this sort of agenda that we would like to use less UV filter, but still reach those high SPF levels and a broad spectrum protection. So there's a lot of work being put into how to create sunscreens that people would actually use and reapply, because just having it in your car is doing no protection on you. It has to be on your skin and you have to reapply.
And it's hard because they have to
Yeah.
wear it and they have to reapply. All numbers have to be reapply. And I
Right.
think that's one of the key things that you said. But how about water resistant?
So first, I would like to say that those also matter. So we do sunscreen testing in our lab with a machine. So that's usually step one, getting lab results for SPF. And I see how much is mandated by the FDA to be used. It is a lot of sunscreen. And so statistics have shown that people typically tend to use about half of what we use for testing. So when these, and then when you launch an SPF product, you must have it tested on consumers as well. So it's just what you mentioned at the beginning. You have to get it tested on human skin, and they use the same amount. What is required by the FDA, it's a lot. So once we use the amount that's needed or required by the FDA, and we say that this product is SPF 30, then you put that on your skin, but only in the half amount that we used for testing, you get half, if that much protection. So I think it's so important to know how much to use, but then going for water resistant. So water resistant products are really important for those who work outdoors or do outdoors activities, or swimmers, or people who work out, or just when you get exposed to either sweat or water. There is nothing that's 100% proof, but there are 40 and 80-minute water resistant products, and they're being tested in certain cycles. So the skin is being exposed to that higher temperature water, very light activity, that it's allowed to dry down. The SPF is tested, and it's tested in cycles. So those products that claim to be water resistant for 40 minutes or 80 minutes, they have been tested for the entire life cycle of those 40 or 80 minutes. And so you can trust the product that it's not going to rub off. During the test, they do not rub the skin though. So when it's kind of like a jacuzzi that they have to sit in, that's higher temperature. So it's not just like tap water. It's a little bit higher temperature water, and they can do light activities, but it's not really a full workout. And when they come out, they cannot rub the skin with a towel because that would rub the product off. So if you put a sunscreen on and then you went swam, came out, and you towel dried yourself, you likely lost some of the product. So the product can contain the SPF if you do not disrupt that film that's on your skin. If you were rubbing it off, then the protection is gone. So again, we know this because we do the testing and we understand how this works, and we see that if you were to rub it off, your protection is going down. I don't think this is something very obvious for a consumer to know. So I think I usually tell my students that I would love to see more science, like science education that is directed towards consumers and at their language, because I think a lot of times consumer education is there, but it's way too technical for them. So goes right above their heads. I think we need to speak their language and have them understand what the problems are, what the issues are, the concerns what we talked about, and how to use products, and explain it to them why. I think there are so many questions that consumers ask, why do I have to do that? And a lot of times the answer is either too technical or there's no answer. And there are answers to a lot of things. It's just we have to explain them in a way that makes sense and sticks with them.
Yeah, I mean, that's really interesting. Now I'm thinking all this last weekend how my kids went swimming and I towel dried them, and I don't think did I reapply at that point? I don't think I did. I don't think I did, but I did reapply later.
Yes.
But good to know for the future. Thank you so much, Dr. Baki. We may make sure you can check out the incredible courses and webinars that are offered through the Society of Cosmetic Chemists website. You can see Dr. Baki's courses there as well. Just go to scconline.org, and you can also find her book. Again, it's Introduction to Cosmetic Formulation and Technology by Dr. Gabriella Baki. Thank you so much, Dr. Baki, for joining us today. We really, really appreciate it. A wealth of information. We'll definitely have you back on the show.
Thank you so much.
A big thank you to Dr. Baki again for joining us today. So what were some of the key takeaways from Dr. Baki on the show?
It's reinforcing that every Fitzpatrick would benefit for applying an SPF on a daily basis. We thought it was more for the lighter skin tones because of the burning effect, but everyone could benefit. All Fitzpatricks from 1 to 6 should benefit with application. Skin cancer is in the rise, and all of a sudden, the darker the skin or the melanin, it's hard to detect. Early detection is really important with skin cancer. The essential part of our daily routine has to add the SPF application. It's really important for if you're doing anything, wearing an SPF is really mandatory on a daily basis. No matter what the climate is, raining, sunny, whatever the season is, that should be a part of our daily routine.
You're right. It is the most important. And that's the reason why we actually have drug facts on the packaging. And the one thing I'd like to go over real quick is on the drug facts, what it says on our packaging. The uses, it helps prevent sunburn if used as directed with other sun protection measures. And then the second part says on C directions, decreases the risk of skin cancer and early skin aging caused by the sun. This is the only skincare product that is able to have a claim. This is why they are known as OTC. So the importance of skincare is the most important. And we are very, very proud to be able to offer so many SPF products. So they're able to choose the one that they need. Usually you have an SPF product for drier skin, but then you're going to have an SPF product for oilier skin. And it is very important to be able to choose a sunscreen that you want to use daily and you want to also reapply. This is an important part that Dr. Baki also brought up, that it is important to reapply, especially if you're outdoors or whatever, you have to reapply after a certain amount of time. Plus, there's no such thing as water resistant. It is good for a while, but as she said earlier, she also mentioned that the fact that if you're in a pool or if you're in the water, when you get out and if you go ahead and towel dry, you're taking off the product. So reapplication is very important.
Yeah, and she said the 30 is a good number, which really is important too. And 30 to 50, it's a very small number. Reapplication is more valuable than the 30, 40, 50, 60. It's a reapplication because we're not using enough sometimes. When they test it, it's a larger quantity of application. So we just, again, being aware, the drug fact is more expensive. It's more testing. Like Francine said earlier, there are certain labs that do the drug facts and some don't. But we have definitely invested in having the drug facts, having the testing to support our SPFs, which is really important. And I have to tell you, for me, my experience, raising my older kids, we didn't at that time have the focus on wearing SPFs on our younger kids. It wasn't a daily requirement for us to put an SPF. And what we're learning is that the damage done when they're younger is a factor because it's accumulative. And when they become early 20s, there's a lot of damage that has occurred as they were growing up and exposed to the sun. And I'm seeing now with my youngest, and I have a 4-month-old little granddaughter, SPF is talked about. It's essential. She carries it with her, and we start to wear the SPFs as 6 months and above. So it's changing. Our knowledge out there of SPFs and the importance of SPFs is really changing. So I'm really happy to see that. And these podcasts are really important because we're exposing it to the consumers, and they need to know that SPF is not just a put it on sometimes and sometimes I don't. It's an essential part of our daily routine for skincare.
And as your granddaughter begins to wear sunscreen, it will be a physical or mineral sunscreen at 6
Right.
months. of age. So
Not,
that makes a big difference too. I've always favored mineral and physical sunscreens. Yes, there are both. There's chemical and there's also physical, but I've always personally favored the physical. Children start wearing it after 6 months of age, and it
yeah.
should be mineral sunscreen.
Yeah, I got to tell you a funny story. When my younger son Lucas was playing baseball, it was really hot this one day, so I had some sunscreen. I asked like some of the other parents, I'm like, "Oh, do you want some sunscreen?" And a few of them said yes. And there was this one mom, I'm like, "Hey, do you want some sunscreen?" And she's like, "Oh no, I'm a sun goddess. I never wear sunscreen." I'm sitting there like, "Oh, I'm cringing. Don't say that to me." It's just I understand you like the sun and you're tanner. She had probably had a more darker olive skin tone to her, but I know I'm sitting there thinking, do you know what you're doing? I think of that whole idea that we talked about, UVA, the aging rays,
Yes.
UVB, the burning rays, how we talked about that. But yeah, that's something that I'm thinking, oh yeah, we don't talk about that enough. And I just think this is a message that we just need to keep getting out there and kind of hammering to people. But also those drug facts, there really is something to say about consumer confidence when you have that on the back of a sunscreen.
And when you're looking at someone's skin, especially before you do a treatment on someone's skin, you'll notice that the side that's exposed to the sun, if you're commuting every day, or just one side of your face might have more, it's because of that accumulative sun exposure. It doesn't happen with us one sunburn. It happens slowly, 5 minutes here, 10 minutes there, not wearing the SPF. So leaving the house, always have an application of SPF, so to assure that, you are protected. It's really important.
Yeah.
It is your number one product, and we have to remind people.
Yeah.
And the nice part about it is today's sunscreens are not just like zinc oxide, where you put it on and that's it. Today's sunscreens are so much more sophisticated. They actually are your daily moisturizer. We go ahead and we put peptides in our sunscreens, and we put nutrients in our sunscreens. So you're getting the daily benefits you need along with the protection. So there's so much more than just an SPF, but make sure that SPF is in there and working, because protection is number one.
And you said it beautifully. You could cleanse your face and all of a sudden just put an SPF, which has multiple benefits, not just an SPF benefit. And you could just take your daily, do your daily routine. Just wearing that one product with all the new combinations that it's doing in the formulas that we have today in the market, you could just do those 2 steps and you're protected. That's how simple it could be.
With benefits. And the key is with benefits. There's other benefits in the sunscreens. So today's technology is so much more advanced. We're wearing a sunscreen. Not only are you protected, but you're also getting all the other benefits.
I carry in my purse always an SPF just to be able to reapply. Driving, I like to apply it before I get in my car, the arms and the hands and, exposing that. It's just a nice way to feel that I have a shield and protecting my skin. With just a little 15-minute drive, it's just enough to get me that protection that I feel comfortable with.
Yeah,
instead of pulling down my sleeves, instead of, Fran used to joke, I would pull down my sleeves to drive with my, I don't know how many of
Pretty
our
sure
viewers
she's going to be
are
wearing
watching.
gloves. I always tease her, you're going to be wearing these white gloves while you're driving.
Driving Miss Metaxia.
But they do have them. They do have these gloves that you wear with SPFs. I'm not joking, but
that's pretty cool.
Aging, your hands show a lot of aging.
I'm sure she did.
I would tell, just put the sunscreen on when you go into your office or when you go out, and then you wash your hands. You have to reapply. That's the key. Reapply. And make sure you pay attention. Reapply. You take care of your hands. You use scrubs. Use special hand creams to make sure that we take care of your hands. And then it's always important to use the correct sunscreen on your hands to prevent any more damage.
What I also love is that Lyra Clinical really offers different types of sunscreens for different types of skin. Like you talked about before, you have the hydrating sunscreen for drier skin, the oil-free for more oilier skin. I think it's great to have these. I mean, just think about the idea. We talked about formulations. We talked about emulsions on the last episode, and just talking about how there's different formulations within sunscreen. You have anhydrous sunscreens like the Elio drops. I mean, there's different things for everyone that can, because that's an important part of finding the right sunscreen for you, is finding what you're comfortable with and works best with your skin.
Always be sure that the sunscreens have a drug fact. That validates the numbers that they're saying that on the SPF packaging. Sorry to interrupt, Fran, but I'm so excited that we've done that.
We've reminded people when their clients come in And we ask them in 6 weeks, they should have at least finished their sunscreen. And they say, no, I still have it. That means you're not wearing it every day.
Yeah.
And a lot of people think they're putting some mineral makeup on or they're putting something to give them that sun protection. They're not. It makes a big difference to make sure you're using the correct sunscreen and making sure you have the coverage that you need. And so this is why we actually put 21% zinc in a lot of our products, because we're able to give them that full protection that they are going to need. But sometimes, as Dr. Baki said, the zinc is gives them that gray tinge. So we also have the classic tint on darker Fitzpatricks. So they apply it and then they don't have that gray tinge anymore. So they love wearing it. Once they love wearing it, their skin begins to look better. And that's the key. Make sure we have the right formulation for the right person so they wear it every day.
And a keynote to please for everyone to listen. It's not just our daily routine. It's our in-clinic treatments. Always should end with an SPF.
Yes.
Everything we do has a step protocol, but the end should always be an SPF protection. We're talking from waxing. We're talking from basic facials. We're talking for chemical peels. We're talking for lasers. We're talking for Botox. Everything should have a finish with an SPF part of their
But
protocol.
a certain SPF. SPF, because lasers and certain treatments, when there's a lot of heat in the skin, you're going to need an SPF, such as we have the BBs.
Right.
And we also have the Elio drops where the heat is released from the skin, so it's not too occlusive. So again, things are customized to what the skin needs.
But it always ends with an SPF.
Always.
Yes, it always ends, even though you might pick the right one or a different delivery. But it's important that your protocol should end with an SPF.
Completely agree. We've learned so much on this show today. We've learned so much on every show. Another great place to go to for learning is also the Society of Cosmetic Chemists. So you can make sure check out their incredible courses and webinars that they offer. You can also see Dr. Baki's courses. She has some great courses there. Just go to scconline.org. That's scconline.org. But that's going to do it for us today. And we do not want you to miss a single minute of this show. So in order to not miss a minute, make sure you subscribe to the podcast. Just go to Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or any of your other favorite podcast platforms. Plus, you can watch the show on YouTube at Lyric Clinical's YouTube page or on Spotify. And feel free to rate the podcast. 5 stars always appreciated. And don't forget to follow our social media channels at SkinDepth Convo on Instagram, Facebook, and TikTok. And if you have any questions for Fran and Metaxia, you can email your questions to info@skindepthconvo.com. That's info@skindepthconvo.com. A big thank you to Dr. Baki for joining us once again. A big thank you to both of you, Metaxia and Francine, because you always give us the most incredible information on here.
And a big thank you for you, Anna, because you found
thank you.
Dr. Baki. That was a really good find for us. You opened up that channel, and I appreciate it very much. And I'm excited about the book. I'm excited to meet her in person soon. Hopefully, we'll plan a meeting someplace, either in our office or her office. But that was a good find. Thank you, Anna.
Yeah, just go to Wiley.com if you'd like to check out her book as well.
Yeah.
You can learn more about the book on the last episode of the podcast where we discuss emulsions, and she also discussed how the book came to be. So make sure you listen to that as well. But that's going to do it for us today. For all of us at a Skin Depth Convo, I'm Anna Kakarakis, and we'll talk to you soon.